if we're actually live. Go.
I have to open up another laptop.
All right, hello YouTube. We're live here with the guest I tried to have last week, at least one of them, Trad Patrick from Tradcast Show TCS. We're gonna do a bit of an update to yesterday's We Were Warned video first, because some of the things going on there, and we got to be extremely careful how we talk about these things on this platform, have changed a little bit. So in that video, I mentioned how you can go to restaurants and you can go to bistros and things, but they shut down public masses, which seemed like an absurd thing to do. Well, the Italian authorities kind of figured out that was a bad idea, so they, shut down pretty much everything. The whole country now is on lockdown, and for better or worse, we'll see what happens there. And, whatever your opinion is on that whole subject, keep it Italy and everyone affected by it in your prayers. Like, I had someone explain to me, because I didn't know this, that Italy is sort of Europe's and the EU's version of Florida. So think about that for a second. So yeah, that's the update on that. The whole country is pretty much, locked down. Yeah, Trad Patrick, go ahead and say hi if you want.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
So yeah, we're this is the first successful live stream. It seems like if things drop out, it's because I have a garbage internet connection, and I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna just bite the bullet and get a better service here soon. So how's everybody doing? Someone asks me in the chat, what was Mike Church trying to get me to do yesterday? Oh, he's trying to get a you know about this too, Trad Patrick. He's trying to get in at what is that convention he's trying to get to? I was asked to retweet it, and so I did, because it was legit. I just can't remember precisely. Do you remember what that is?
I took care of it with him as well. So Trump has announced that he's doing this Catholics for Trump political action committee, and he's announcing it, I believe, on the 3rd. So Church is trying to get as press for it. And I think it's legit. I mean, Church was press. He worked Louisiana, ABC, local affiliate there, satellite radio from.
Right. So, basically, it was just to get him in that Catholics for Trump coverage thing. So, because he's press. So that's what we're trying to do. And so I gave a retweet on that. So I'm hoping everyone is doing well today. So again, I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. Yesterday's We Were Warned video, when I produced it, it was true that you could still go to a bistro or a restaurant, but not long after it went live, I saw on the news that changed, and the Italians were smart and decided, hey, that's a bad idea. So they shut everything down. So there's an update on that for you. We're going to talk about some stuff today, but I wanted to, there's a couple news items that I don't really want to make videos about, but I will talk about. So let's see. While you have in the U.S. a lot and other places, you're not being able to receive communion on the tongue, which last week I put a video up by Bishop Schneider, where I read his letter on the subject. The Polish bishops actually have called for more masses in response to the thing going on, and they called it unimaginable to close churches, and it's covered from LifeSite, and so just a quote from it: Polish bishops have called for more masses as a response to the thing going on. They have released a statement which will be in Polish. I don't feel like trying to do a translation here. But they say here's some quotes from the LifeSite translation. It says, in the current situation, I wish to remind you that just as hospitals treat diseases of the body, so the church serves to, among other things, treat illness of the soul. That is why it's unimaginable that we do not pray in our churches. I remind you that in the current situation, old people and the sick can stay at home. I don't know why people, as an aside, don't understand this. Any priest worth his salt is going to give you a pass if you are especially at risk right now. And from there he continues, watch broadcasts of Mass. And I think Holy Faith Media on YouTube has, on Sundays, live streams Masses from all over the world. You can, if you're, an older person who's in the higher risk group for this thing, watch it, talk to your priest. I'm sure they'll say yes, and then go over there and watch a Mass if that's what you need to do. But the Polish bishops have stepped up on this, and I think that's a good thing. because honestly, we should be praying more during these kind of weird times that we're in instead of not. And I totally get why the Polish or the Italian government thought it was prudent to close things down, but I'm not a fan. However, Pope Francis did something. He's actually told the priests to go out there and go talk to the people and give them sacraments as needed. So on like more of a one-on-one basis. So I guess that's a good thing too. So those things are going on right now. Someone says Florida man equals Italian man.
That's rude.
Trad Patrick is from is you're Sicilian, right?
Yes, I am.
Yep, so you're Italian. Thomas Keller says he received communion on the tongue in Colorado. Yeah, I mean, you got dioceses and various dioceses in the United States saying different things. So Archbishop Sample predictably came out and said you can't deny the public communion on the tongue. So there you go. Father Goring apparently said New York should be having processions asking for mercy. Well, someone's Novus Ordo parish actually added kneelers for people receiving on the tongue. Those are good signs to see, honestly.
I think it should be. I mean, to be honest with you, communion on the unless the priest is like wiping tongue, which I've never or ever witnessed, is much safer than a bunch of people wiping their Purell, their Hawaiian.
Not a fan of the Purell. We're able to receive communion on the tongue in Galveston area, depending on the pastor. Yes, I don't know about like my area. Once in a while, I'll see the parish priest from the diocesan parish that's about 2 minutes from my house at the gas station, and I go to confession with him sometimes, and because he's a good priest, I haven't had a chance to ask him what they're doing at their parish, but last Sunday the fraternity didn't act like anything was going on. They just had mass as usual, basically. The priest may have gone ahead of time to talk to people who were at high risk to do things, but to say, hey, you can go home if you need or whatever. Purell is of the devil.
Somebody said that their church has been doing St. Michael prayer after every mass. I find that hysterical because the society does Michael prayer at the end of mass every mass.
Right.
I guess it's like a Novus Ordo thing.
So what happened? Well, I mean, the history of that is that I think it was Pius X, it was Pope Leo XIII wanted the St. Michael prayer said after every low mass every Sunday, and that was the case until Paul VI ended that practice. And now various bishops around the United States and Europe are bringing it back after every mass on Sunday. The fraternity does the St. Michael prayer after low mass on Sunday as well. So we have someone saying they don't have holy water in the fonts anymore, so they make sure to bring some for their family. Yeah, I can understand that. Communion on the tongue still at the FSSP in Harrisburg. I would be shocked if any of the traditionalist orders or quasi-traditionalist orders like the FSSP started giving out communion on the hand. Like every fraternity priest I've ever met would rather just, restrict communion that way.
The nice thing about back some version of tradition. People start to look at about maybe that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've made the tweet in toilet paper. Purell is people. It doesn't.
Do you know when I use
it's feel good.
Do you know when I use hand sanitizer? I use hand sanitizer at work after I handle cash. And that's even after I wash my hands, because cash is the biggest thing that you can get sick from these days. Or like this morning, I was at the gym, and after I was done with my workout, I used a hand sanitizer because, quite frankly, barbells are disgusting. But
I do use it. I mean, I use it like I travel. I travel pretty much every week.
Yeah. Hence why
You
you're
sit
always
on
sick.
an airplane. Yeah, exactly. Sitting on an airplane, sitting on the track, the first thing I do is take out the pure put it on cloth. And I mean, I think that's just generally a good practice. I think a lot of people don't realize they turn the entire plane. There's no HEPA filter on planes. There's none of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you just gotta really just use the things to wipe, putting it on your.
Right. Like, so my favorite thing about flying is that you are in you're in an aircraft receiving everyone's recycled air for several hours. Like 75% of the time that I have flown in the past, when I got to where I was going, within a few days I was sick. So it's one of those things, right? Like I feel like I always get sick when I fly. That's why I'm not looking forward to having to fly later this year to probably defend my dissertation.
Yeah, flying is not it's not one of the best modes of travel. If I could travel on a train, I would prefer that over a plane any day of the week. But it's just so long.
Yeah, people are saying that you're breaking up on us.
I think it's because I move when I move my away from my mouth, incredibly great Apple $40 headphone mic are so bad that if you don't have it like right at your mouth, that's what happened.
And for those wondering, you are on the road right now, though. I'm not going to ask you to tell people where you are, but you're not sitting at home in front of your home setup.
Correct. I am in a hotel in one of the bad cities.
One of the places you don't want to be when the chastisement goes down, probably. We have somebody say in the chat telling people basically a recipe for their own hand sanitizer, and it turns out to be way stronger. Just careful with that. Don't dry your hands out. You know what I'm saying?
Don't use it all the time. I mean, here's the thing: you shake somebody's hand, and you know the person. There's probably a limited chance that you're going to get anything. If you meet a stranger and you shake their hand, I mean, right now I would say don't shake a. If you don't know the person, a little elbow, or something like that. He says, is probably a better option because you just don't know what people have. You just don't know whether people themselves are. That's like hearing people say, "Well, take a shower. Make sure you take a shower every other day." Like, no, make sure you take a shower every. That's just good hygiene in this world.
Right. Drink whiskey every now and then. The alcohol in your blood will kill germs. I like that theory.
I have so much scotch in me that I don't think like COVID could last. It would just die.
It would just show up and it'd be done. Yeah, so at my side job, we have to wash our hands every half hour, or after we've handled electronics, or after handling money, or after touching our face, or after eating, or after using the bathroom, yada yada yada. I mean, it's you're washing your hands very frequently, and your phone is absolutely disgusting. I mean, Jay's right. He says in the chat that your phone is just, yeah.
How many people, let's be honest, how many of you sit on your toilet with your cell phone? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're sitting in the bathroom on the toilet with your smartphone. Just think about what is on that phone, and then you put it to your face.
Ugh. Yeah. SK Willis, the sign of peace is rubbish anyway. I would say the sign of peace as it's done in the Novus Ordo is one of my least favorite parts of the Novus Ordo. There's a video right now that's so great. It shows Cardinal Dolan saying a mass, and his deacon or the priest who's celebrating with him says, "And now let us give each other the sign of peace." And then Cardinal Dolan just looks up, puts his hand up, and says, "Let's not."
It's actually the first time. It's the first time in the longest time I've looked at Dolan and gone, about time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Usually I'm like completely attacking Cardinal Dolan because he's such a putz, but that was pretty good. It was I give him to him that That's actually not even like my least favorite thing. My least favorite thing about Novus Ordo is when everybody holds hands and then holds their other hand up when in the orange posture when they're doing the Our Father.
Yeah, that
I
bugs me.
literally want to I just want to run up and down the pews, just slapping everybody in the back of the head.
Nah, yeah, yeah. I get very judgy if I'm at a new mass. That's one of the reasons I go to the Latin mass. I find myself judging myself when I'm at the Latin mass more. And I don't mean like judging like I'm going to go to hell judging, but I mean like, looking around at the people who are far more pious and better Catholics than I am, being much more reverent than I am, and I think that's much healthier. So,
I think for me, like whenever I do have to go to a Novus Ordo mass, like when they keep my hand folded and my head down, and when I look up, I always see the people shake, whispering about me. But you know what? Whatever.
Simple Crusader says, tired of seeing people considering the sign of peace as a time to socialize and hug each other with the hippie peace signs. Technically, you're only supposed to like basically, the people to your sides, the people maybe in front, and the person maybe behind you, and that's it. But you'll see people like go halfway across. And my favorite is when the priest comes down from the altar, because at the sign of peace is at the very beginning of the Eucharistic liturgy. So
that's the charismatics. They do that. Like somebody actually mentioned one of them. Somebody mentioned Father Goring. Father Goring is a charismatic. No, he's
yeah, he is. A lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people are like, well, what's wrong with the charismatic movement? And it's like, well, every exorcist I've ever listened to was not a fan of it, except I think Father Amarth was okay with it, I think. But
yeah, he was.
But then again, that was because he was he was there as like during the early part of Medjugorje before it became obvious what was going on over there.
That Goring goes a little far though. There's that picture of him getting blessed by females and stuff like that. That was pretty like cringe.
Yeah. Thomas Keller, a bunch of women talking, singing, handling the consecrated bread and wine. Everyone needs to go watch what Father Mitch Pacwa says about Pachamama idol worship. I didn't know he had said anything about it.
He did. He's one of the few good Jesuits left out there. He's
I like Father Mitch. And calling him Father Mitch is actually probably is that the correct thing, because he's technically part of a religious order?
Yes.
Okay. I always have a hard time categorizing the Jesuits that way.
Well, it's anybody who's part of an order, you should be calling them by their first name. So if it's like growing up, our priest was he's now a bishop, Bishop Labaci, and growing up we called him Father Peter because he's a member of an order. If they're not a member of an order, technically you're supposed to call them just Father or Father and last name. It's a weird whole thing about how you are supposed to do it, but nowadays, like, people just walk in and they go, "Hey, Father," they'll just walk in and go, "Hey, Peter, how you doing?" There's no respect anymore.
Right. Like, I remember the diocesan priest at the parish that I came into the church in years ago. Older priest, got ordained in the late '60s. Was on the verge of retiring at the time. He said, people would call him Father Jim. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's a little too familiar for my taste, but
yeah, it's like even when you used to kiss the hand of the priest. Even a priest, you would kiss his hand. I don't think I've seen anybody in the Novus Ordo or anything like that do that with a priest anymore. I usually reserve that for a bishop or above. For myself, I mean, if I run into a bishop or if I run into a cardinal, I will bow and kiss their hand. But I typically don't do it with a priest anymore myself either, because I just don't see that.
I think it's mostly done now during their what do you call it? Right after they've been ordained at their ordination mass.
Yeah, it's usually then, or when they've been moved up, like when they go from just a priest in the church up to pastor or something like that. Usually then during those ceremonies that you'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Our democratic culture loathes respecting people, for it seeks to drag us all down to the lowest common denominator. It is like this sort of like this liberal culture we live in is the reason socialism thrives in liberal democracies is because liberal democracies enable they believe in equalizing people, right? Like, this whole Mr. Mrs. thing, everyone becomes sort of gets a title thing that we have in our culture. I say that as a guy who's about to get the title of doctor. Not that I will ever go by that because I'm not that pretentious, but.
What? You're not going to put down on Twitter on your bio and make sure that everybody knows it's doctor?
No. That's not me.
Aw. I've seen this though. They're absolutely right. I've seen this.
Who doesn't want to be a deaconess when they grow up? Says somebody in the chat. I'm like,
I walk. It's so funny. I walked past in this particular city. I walked past I guess one of these Prot or Anglican churches, and there's the picture of the pastor, and it's a woman, and she's wearing like some sort of Technicolor robes and whatever else, and it's like the big rainbow flag and all her welcome is next to it. It's like, yep, that's what happens when you let women become priests.
So John, I can't pronounce your last name, asked, and I don't want to butcher it, says, did Susan from the parish council pass away? Well, because I actually go onto Fedbook, yes. Apparently the person running it probably got tired of the account or got tired of the joke and started doing an end of life series of posts, and then one of these other parody pages did a RIP Susan from the parish council post, and nothing else from that since on any.
So since I actually know who that was, yes, they've ended.
They got tired of the gag.
There's more to it than that. I think there was a lot of it was starting to get a lot of attention from the wrong people.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could see that. SK Willis says, I'm getting a doctorate, and I will definitely go by doctor. Some people saying they're going to call me Dr. Stine when I get it. Well, I mean, maybe. I mean,
I have like
my doctorate's in something lame anyway, so.
I have like 5 titles, and I don't even use them on my business. Like, yeah, it's I don't know. Titles are pretend. I mean, I get it. You work to get the titles, and people are like, well, I worked to get the title. I spent all the time and money, so I might as well use the title. I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, I can see it from that standpoint that people want to do it, but I mean, it's just, to me, it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, Thomas Keller, Susan from the parish council has passed away of unspecified end of life medical issues.
She got corona.
Cheap Guy says, watch videos from the late Father Hess. I will say this, Father Hess is hilarious. Canon Hess was hilarious. And I would have loved to have seen what he thought of the current pontificate, because he was not a fan of John Paul II at all. And I just can't imagine what he would say now, at all. Can't imagine it.
Psychology and theology. I don't think those two actually go together.
Well, I mean, Father Ripperger has a PhD in psychology and is an exorcist. So he could conceivably do the entirety of your diagnoses to see if you really are possessed or not. One-stop shopping, so to speak.
I am totally opposed to the idea of psychology. I have my reasons for it.
Yeah. You use LLM. That is the degree you got. Connolly Law. I'm guessing that's you have a law degree, I'm guessing. Republicanism is based on rejecting authority. That is, depends what you mean by republicanism. Because if we're talking about the stuff that Machiavelli was defending, in the 16th century, I don't know about that so much. I don't know enough though about the history of those republics and how some of them went from being monarchies, strong monarchies, to the civil republics that they were.
I think people don't understand republic, and there's too many people out there trying to explain it, and they explain it the wrong way. A true republic would be based on Rome, ancient Rome, where you do have an authoritarian leader, where modern republics do not have authoritarian leaders. They have elected leaders. So they're what I call it a quasi-republic. because the ultimate leader doesn't have the ultimate. So that's where the difference is. Machiavelli was more of that kind of pushing toward the idea of that authoritarian leader and stuff like that. So he was a little bit different, even though all that. But it's republicanism is you really have to research it, and you got to go back to the roots, and the roots of it are Rome.
Right. And if you want to read, if you take if you try to take, your opinion on Machiavelli based on the Prince, you're going to have a bad time, because his book, The Discourses on Livy, is a much better, much more moderate tone about what he was doing. There's a sort of a debate among philosophers and historians about whether Machiavelli was trying to give bad advice to the guy who conquered his city, or if he was trying to get a job with him.
Mussolini was not a liberal, Bruce. He was a liberal originally. When he first came into power, if you would, he was still kind of a left-leaning guy, if you would. His father was a communist. His father was a devout communist. But Mussolini, after he took power, actually changed. He reconciled with the church and actually gave the church money for the loss of the Papal States. So he did change. He did go more toward a version of clerical fascism, but he was not liberal in the sense of what we deem a liberal today.
Right.
Very different kind of guy.
Someone asked if we think they're going to shut down churches in the U.S. Well, if they do, I don't think it'll be based on anything real. Maybe. Like I'm bewildered at them emptying dorm rooms right now at universities. Well, my brother-in-law just got he goes to MIT, and they just sent him. They're sending everybody home. It's like, okay, like, the people who are most at risk are on the opposite end of the age spectrum from the the MIT college student. Although there are cases in Los Angeles apparently of young people there, but I mean
I think the only places in the states that are overreacting to this are your typical liberal states, because they're trying to use this like they've used everything else to kind of make Trump look bad. So it's, you see in states like where I'm at, which are very, right-leaning states, are not closing anything. They're not overreacting like that. And it's also the cities. Cities just tend to be liberal places, and so if you see anything in the United States, it's going to be based in cities,
right,
the entirety of the country.
So Connolly Law says that you have to remember that Machiavelli was a description of what he saw going on, not really a how-to book. That's true, generally speaking. Bruce Wayne says the Mussolini thing was a joke.
Okay, sorry.
The Kidney and the Stone says, I think gossip is going to send a lot of people to hell. Well, gossip is generally considered a sin, so if you're not aware of them, check out America Needs Fatima from TFP. Yeah, I'm aware of that, of TFP, and I've seen a little bit of their content on the line.
Yeah, John Horvath is an acquaintance.
So S.K. Willis says Peter Boghossian would not have a job, nor would Phil Zuckerman, if we had real education standards. While true, my university is the one that Peter Boghossian teaches at, and I became aware of him when he wrote his manual on creating atheists. This is a sort of like anti-Bible he had. I will say that I am thoroughly amused by his writing a bunch of fake peer-reviewed studies and sending them to various peer-reviewed journals and getting them actually through the peer review process, and they're just utter gibberish. They're just nonsense. One of them is literally taking Mr. Mustache's book, My Struggle, if you know what I mean by that, and replacing the language with feminist and SJW language, and he got a chapter from it published in a peer-reviewed journal. So I don't have any personal love for the guy, but I have to admit, he showed how utterly ridiculous the education establishment is with that, and I liked that. Stala says, better not shut down my guitar mass. I think your guitar mass is safe.
Yeah. Just somebody asked who was better. So you got to understand that the Austrian was not a fascist. He may have started out with some leanings toward fascism, but he was not a fascist. Mussolini was, by definition, a full-fledged fascist. fascism as a whole, a lot of people use the term as a, kind of a catch-all phrase.
Well, it's a catch-all
And so,
for that bad thing that's on the political right.
yeah, it's there's not enough people who really understand the philosophy of fascism. Like me, I've put most of my life into studying it. But it's if I had a choice.
You hope you dropped out.
Sorry about that. You hear me now?
Oh yeah, I hear you. You're back.
Okay. But I would choose a true fascist state over what we have, because in the truest sense of fascism, you would have a true republic. You would have that authoritarian leader, and we've seen it work. We've seen Franco in Spain under Franco worked. He was the authoritarian leader, but he had a Congress, he had a Senate, he had all that. Franco made mistakes at the end, which kind of led to where Spain is now, which is that he opened up to the free market.
Which is sort of clown world central. Spain is not in a good place right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he opened it up to the market, and he handed over the reins, which fascism is always supposed to hand over the reins to a monarch. He chose the wrong. That was really his.
So, like, my ideal political system is one where I don't have to be bombarded 24/7 about what's going on in the capital. Like, I want all the politics that matter in my life to be super local. That's all I want. I don't care. Like, I mean, I do care. I don't want to have to care. I don't want to have to be, like, mortally terrified that we're going to get, a senile old man as the president of the United States who's going to become a puppet for the Moloch worshippers. I don't want to be worrying about this stuff. Right.
That's why you need the idea of fascism or integralism
or monarchy or something something that
elected
what
elected leader is just like I always thought of that term as like the most ridiculous thing. We're gonna elect the leader every couple of years. I mean, it's just like look at our choices. We had a gay guy, a fake Indian, a senile old Jewish communist, a senile pedophiliac, whatever he is, and Trump. Those are your choices to vote for. Your leader. You're not supposed to vote for your leader. Being a leader is not supposed to be a popularity.
Which is why one of the proposed reforms of for the American government that I like, and I haven't heard it in a while, is to change the presidency to a single 6-year term, because your president isn't going to, as soon as he gets elected, he doesn't have to worry about re-election at that point. So he would be able to do something, like lead instead of.
Yeah, but I
mean, that would be better than what we have now.
I might agree to that, but I would say make it a single 8-year.
A single 8-year, yeah. As much as I found, like Trump's constant rallies amusing, I got really tired of just constant, election talk and constant politics. That's one of the things I found quite thrilling when I moved to the part of the country that I live in. Politics isn't everything. It's so good. It's like people have lives out here. It's great. Christopher Marlowe, but Biden is Catholic. And he's actually laughing. It's kind of a joke. But Noido Game says Lola Monarch takes over the USA. Go read Charles Coulomb's Star Spangled Crown. It gives you an interesting scenario for it, and it's a hilarious scenario, an absolutely wonderfully hilarious scenario. Mosley and Cordroneau were pure monarchist. Fascism was not necessarily a republic, says Bruce Wayne. Yeah, I'd agree with what the very next comment is. My plan is to abolish the Constitution. Well, I don't know about abolishing the Constitution. That might upset some people. You might get a lot of pushback because we have elevated that to basically Moses came down with the 10 Commandments, but then he went back up and came back with the Constitution. Basically, is how people treat it. But he wants to get rid of Masonic values, which you would pretty much have to at least severely change the Constitution for that.
The Constitution is Boomer's New Testament.
Gary Paul says 6 years of Obama ? Well, we had 8 years, so. Mark Trousseau, I've grown an interest with Mussolini's Italy. I guess you can call it a fascist nation. I need a soundboard. I really do. Yeah, I do agree that when people say they hate how elective politics makes us hate each other all the time, I agree. OAN News just reported that Australian High Court considering a final appeal in Cardinal Pell case. Yeah, if he has any chance, that's going to be there. But otherwise, he might be in solitary confinement for functionally the rest of his life. So keep him in your prayers, because I don't understand how what he's charged with could have possibly happened.
Yeah, I don't get that whole thing, to be honest with you. Then again, I don't get how the justice in these other countries work. You get thrown in jail in the UK for like saying the word muzzy like that. It's
Right. Like I'm not wild about like some things that our constitutional system has enabled, but I think that's more an abuse of the courts than anything else. But the unwritten constitution, like you have in the UK, has led to some really interesting things. Like, they have in their constitution, which is just their sort of their legal tradition, free speech.
So I see people.
But,
I see people in your chat kind of attacking Trump, and I just wanted to address that. Trump is not. He's not the guy that I would choose, from any standpoint. But for the fact that he's somewhat anti-abortion, he's putting somewhat anti-abortion judges and stuff in place. I'm gonna vote for him, and I don't care. I voted for him the last time. I'll vote for him this time. I don't care. I would never vote for somebody like a Bernie or a Biden or a Warren or a Buttigieg or anything like that. And if it came down to the choice between two people like that, I just wouldn't vote at all. So voting for Trump is kind of like, I don't want to say it's voting for the lesser of two evils. I just think it's voting for the betterment of the future of the society that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care.
I do want to. When I'm going to put this on, I'm going to share this link to this chat on Twitter. But I want to also suggest, or do go move on to this other story that I want to talk about, because a lot of people are going to love this, and it's involving a political figure that I don't like, but it's involving Ben Sasse, the senator, who I'm not wild about the Never Trumpers. A lot of those guys bug me. Like I don't like neoconservatism, and Never Trumpers are mostly neocons.
Well, you got the neocons, got like this. Think they know. They just go out there. The Trump doesn't do anything. And it's like, you know what? He hasn't done a lot of things, but he's done a lot of other things. So, you got to understand politics. And I think most people today they like to pretend they know politics. It's like how we got coronavirus, and now all of a sudden everybody on Twitter is an epidemiologist, and they have they all work in Atlanta, as directors of the CDC. It's the same thing with politics. Like all of a sudden, everybody's an expert on everything. But then when you throw it in their face and you go, "Do you really think you could do this, and this?" Well, yeah, you could, because the blah blah blah. No, you can't. Just stop.
So here's our news story. Again, this is from LiveSite reporting it. Breaking news: U.S. Senator calls Justice Department to investigate Pornhub in wake of child, we'll say, abuse videos. And this Republican Senator Ben Sasse is calling on the Department of Justice to open an investigation into Pornhub for its involvement in the disturbing pipeline of exploiting children. Now, here's the thing about all this. A lot of people don't know that industry is very deeply tied to human trafficking. So, but you know a little bit about like this, about trying to get, Pornhub and the other websites at least regulated. So why don't you talk about that? Because you and I were talking about that before we went public. So why don't you talk about the efforts to get this stuff controlled, because this is some demonic stuff we're talking about here.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I think it was about a year and a half ago or so, there was the idea of lobbying Congress to get restrictions on online pornography. And then that kind of morphed into like kind of social media campaigns, and over the past year and stuff, we've seen some of people, including a few accounts, saying that we should do this and that to pornography. But there was a legitimate movement behind that, where people have gone up to and literally campaigned and lobbied politicians to look at these. The issue with the online pornography, which I think a lot of people don't get, is that Pornhub, Pornhub and YouPorn and all these other sites, I can't remember all the names right now. They utilize basically uploads. It's kind of like a YouTube, if you would. You upload your content and you get paid per views, just like you would on YouTube. So the problem is because it's an anonymous world, all you do is you go and you click a thing and it says, yep, everybody's over 18 and everybody in the video is doing this of their own free will. And what's happened is there's one particular case where a mother had lost her daughter, and then somebody said, hey, this is your daughter, found the video, and they were luckily able to track the person, find the daughter, her home. But I think it was Pornhub in this particular instance never took the videos down. So what we want to see is not regulation, but the problem with America is that America doesn't just go to straight censorship. There has to be these steps involved, and I completely disagree with it. But if you can get to a point of them saying, okay, this has to be heavily regulated, it has to be all this and that, you then lose, these companies lose giant amounts of revenue in that particular instance, and a lot of them shut down. It's by if you would, almost by proxy, that they end up getting shut down. Ultimately, I think pornography should be in states. It is not, no matter what any conservative Inc. person out there will tell you, the definition of free speech does not protect pornography.
It never did. It never passed the test until recently. In fact, I believe the laws on the books right now say that that there are obscenity laws on the books. They're just not being enforced.
Yeah, I mean, somebody just said you can't without altering what free speech means, and that's absolutely not. Free speech was actually political. It had nothing to do with anything. The idea of free speech in America is the idea of freedom to talk politically. You can't walk into a crowded movie of fire. That's not protected by free speech. It's the same thing with you can't do it. If what you're saying is true, then you wouldn't have a rating system on movies, because that would then be restricting free speech. So it's not altering speech at all. It's just saying smut and deviance are not allowed, and you can have them. Unfortunately, America has a severe addiction. Until we get people to understand that it's an addiction.
Yeah, it's generally considered a public health crisis, at least by people who are willing to be honest about things. Unfortunately, most people aren't willing to be honest about it. They treat it as if it's just an innocent pastime.
Well, I think you get whenever we start up on the anti-porn stuff, we always get people, like I know I get people in me articles, and they'll go, actually, masturbation is good for you. It prevents prostate cancer, or it lowers your risk of heart attack, blah blah blah. And what I always go back with is do you really know that? Okay, number one, I've always viewed the idea of people watching pornography as kind of like, it's like digital. I don't want to use the term, but it's digital cuckery. There's no nice way to put it.
Right.
And
I mean, it's really, I mean, it should be inherently shameful, and it used to be, but sometime in the last decade, and I think it has to do with the tube sites, it went from being shameful to being almost passé. Like, that's where we got to.
Somebody asked, how would the U.S. stop Pornhub if it's in Canada? So there's something that a lot of people don't understand, and I know this because without giving too much. America actually, to this date, still right now controls most of the
Most
And
of
the
the
reason is
most of the internet. You dropped out briefly, but yeah, America controls most of the internet. I remember Obama tried to change that at the end of his presidency. I don't know if he was successful or not.
he was not. We still maintain the majority control of the internet. Um, it's real easy, to be honest with you. Europe, in a lot of European nations, there is a lot of censorship of the internet that people don't realize. Like, it's almost impossible to get on some peer-to-peer file sharing sites in places like Sweden.
Well, no, no, no.
So
Actually, let me give you a more basic one that a lot of people might find funny. Like 10 years ago, I tried to go watch like an Iron Maiden music video on YouTube, and they wouldn't let me in the United States. We're talking about objectively one of the biggest rock bands in history, and I couldn't watch their music video in the U.S. That was bizarre. Like, I still don't
yeah,
understand because they were in the UK, and I guess they had different laws about it or something. I don't know. But
well, the way it works is the same way like Netflix, for example, may have certain shows that they show in England, but you can't see them here in the United States. And it just has to do with usage rights. So if a particular nation doesn't have those particular usage rights, they can restrict it. So it's very easy to restrict anything. You can restrict it. You can restrict their servers access to US. There's a whole bunch of different ways. Yeah, you can get around it. You can put in a VPN. You can utilize the VPN to get onto it. You can do all this stuff. But if you're going to do that, you're going to do it regardless. So it doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. You're going stuff no matter what. You'll use the dark web. You'll find a way to do it.
yeah,
The point is if you restrict it, you make it harder for the average person to have access. That's
pro tip: don't go on the dark web. Don't look up how to do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's if you want to like utterly lose your faith in humanity and start and be inspired to build a bomb shelter. A few minutes on the dark web will be more than enough to do it for you. But Total War Legendary says porn is a weapon. Yeah, I mean, E. Michael Jones isn't wrong about what he says about pornography. A lot of people don't like what he has to say about things, but if you start putting the pieces together and look what the church always talked about on any of those things he talks about, he's mostly right. I mean,
EMJ is probably best culture war people. A lot of people just they give him a bad rap because things, but people don't realize that if they listen to what he actually says, he's not saying it, that's bad in any way, shape, or form. So if you've heard that EMJ, he's absolutely not even.
Bruce Wayne says 90% of porn is filmed in California, though it is American. It's an American industry, and we export it worldwide, along with a lot of other things we shouldn't do.
California and Arizona are probably two of the biggest places where they pornography, and part of the issue with the normalization of pornography is really it's not even just porn. It's even prime television have come to the point where they put kind of like softcore porn in your face. So it numbs you to the idea of looking at this other, the more advanced stuff. So you kind of, it's kind of like, you get that free taste of the drug from the drug dealer, and then you want more and stop with smoking weed. And you go to coke, you go to dope, you go to meth. It's the same thing with pornography. And I think a lot of people.
So somebody says I should get on Dr. E. Michael Jones. That will be something I might look into in the future, but I wouldn't do it on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, I just looked into my Creator Studio, and it says here that the live stream was demonetized. Not surprising. That, to be fair, the one where I was just reading chats last week, that was demonetized too. So, but I mean, yeah, they'll still let the super chat feature happen if they want. But other than that, it's there's limited or no ads running on it, which is fine. So, I didn't do this live stream so that you can sit here and watch a whole lot of ads from probably at this point Bernie Sanders and the guys with the beards selling soap. Although what's funny, if a limited or no ads runs on a video, you're more likely to get edgier ads than more pedestrian ads. Like, so you got the guys, the neo hippies selling you their natural soap that I'm sure is a wonderful soap, but they sell it in a very crude way. You're more likely to get that in a video that gets demonetized. I've noticed that. Like if I'm watching another content creator and I see that ad on a video, I know immediately that their video got demonetized. Just sad. Total War Legendary. Do it on BitChute. I don't think BitChute has live streaming. And if they might. I haven't actually really done much on there.
I don't know. I've done much on that myself either. I have no idea.
BitChute doesn't censor.
I don't think so.
BitChute doesn't.
I don't think they do live streams. I think you have to do it like through a third party or.
I've been hearing rumors that they've been wanting to develop a live streaming system, but I'm sure that's like in the works. Like right now, they do sort of the Wikipedia and Reddit daily, fundraiser to just keep the website running. So BitChute is decent but not great. It's a good backup. Like it's a good place for me to put my edgier videos. Like I put, a couple weeks ago, I put one up there instead of putting it here. That brings me to mentions. Since I got 150 of you guys watching, could you could people make sure that you have the bell clicked for notifications, or go to the Facebook page if you're on Fedbook and follow the Return to Tradition page there, or go to the resources blog at returntotradition.org and just get notifications from there. And the reason I ask that is there's some weird algorithmic issues, and a lot of people are not getting any updates from me. They get an update about like a live stream, and that's it. So, last week I heard from people who hadn't heard from me in 6 weeks, even though I've put videos up every single day. So, go do that. It'll help out a lot. Get Roosh V on. Roosh V is going to be our guy. Y'all should be praying for the conversion of Roosh V. He re-embraced his Armenian Orthodox faith, as I understand it. But keep praying that he comes home. Trust me, going from being a pickup artist atheist to Armenian Orthodox is a wonderful step in the right direction.
Actually, Roosh was really good in with the Corona thing, where he was talking about how everybody's like, oh, it's just killing the boomers, and he's like, yeah, I guess you don't have parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles. He's like, I mean, he was really good on that. I actually liked it.
Yeah,
I liked his take on it. He's doing great, and really, honestly, Roosh was brought home to the faith by Michael Jones. I know a lot of people also don't like the other guy, Owen, the Bears guy, Benjamin.
So sorry to interrupt. Someone asked, "Will I have a conversation with Father William Jenkins from the SSPV?" No, I won't have that set of contests on my channel. Sorry. Sorry.
Will you have
of the set of contests? He's the least offensive because he doesn't sit there in his content pushing it. But I will not promote set of contism. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. Now, a lot of people asking if I will stream on D Live. Watch for an announcement in the future is all I'm going to say. So there's something in the works. We just got some other work to do first. But yes, watch for an announcement on that front.
Yeah. Let's have. I love getting into arguments with Seeds. They're so fun.
I just can't square Christ's promise to the church with sedevacantism. And I do know that Catholic prophecy does speak of a period of sedevacant that's going to come during the chastisement. But that's during the chastisement, and I expect a few of the bishops will survive, so that we can get, the base angelic pope, But I don't think any of that's come yet. So, sedevacantism is too easy of a way out for me. Christopher Marlowe says he likes Father Jenkins. I like listening to him, but that doesn't mean that I can get at it. John C. says, I've been getting notifications for all your videos. Yes, some people are getting them all. What about Michael Hoffman? I don't know who Michael Hoffman is. If you want to email me a link to...
I know. Michael Hoffman, if it's the one I'm thinking about, Michael Hoffman's wrote some books about usury and... I think he's a seed. He's an older guy. He's a boomer age guy. He's written a lot of books and stuff like that. He's gotten crap from Wignats, kind of called them out as well. He is Catholic, but I think Michael. He's just an author though. Kind of a strange guy. I've talked to him in the past. He's a little weird.
So Chris H with the £10 super chat demonetized. Just checking. Well, demonetized meaning they're not going to run like ads. So you're not going to see a car ad. You might see an ad where some guy's talking about men washing their unmentionables, trying to sell you a bar of naturally made soap. And it's like, I wish it wasn't the edgier ads, because my audience is not appropriate for the edgier ads. Like, I mean, right?
Mine
like,
is.
Well, yeah. But yeah, thank you for the super chat. It is appreciated. Father Schmidt is suspect. Who is Father Schmidt?
Father Schmidt, he does these little videos and stuff like that. He's another charismatic.
Yeah, see, someone says they can't blame Sedevacantists for not thinking Francis is the Pope. You know, I understand the draw to what some call the Benevacantist position. It's not a position I ever really want to ever go into because I don't feel qualified to talk about it, but it is a different position than Sedevacantism. So
Bruce Wayne talks about Bishop Williamson. I've had Bishop Williamson in the past. I've talked to him. I could probably have Bishop Williamson on again. He's not a seed, but he's kind of in his own world.
He's in the
now.
SSPX resistance, as I was saying. I like Bishop Williamson. That's all I'm going to say. I really like Bishop Williamson. He would probably get my channel nuked if I had him on. So if I could have a chat with him, what you would see on YouTube is one of those 1 minute, hey, you want to see this video? Go to BitChute or go to the audio only platform. That's what you would see.
He will be on with our other thing that worked already. I've spoken to.
Yes. So we're alluding to something. Trad Patrick and I have something in the works, and it won't be on YouTube, but we have something in the works. Trust me on this. You'll want to hear it when it happens, and I would love to have a talk with Bishop Williamson because years and years ago when I was coming into the church, I watched content from a lot of the trads, and that's what kept me in a Novus Ordo parish from becoming a Medjugorje guitar hippie guy. So Cowboy B with the $10 super chat. Thanks for all the great videos, guys. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you for your support of what we do. It is appreciated. Who bashes women who veil? Stala says, radio station here plays Father Larry Richards. Talk about a loose cannon. There's something. He says, I was listening in on Saturday, and on one hand, he says, we need to be accepting of all forms of mass. Then 2 seconds later, bashes women who veil.
it's like, hey, guys.
I want to see. Here's the thing. I really want to like Father Larry Richards. Like, he has some really good talks that you can go listen to online. But at the same time, it's hard sometimes with him. He's one of those that people should pray for. Christopher Marlowe says Bishop William is awesome. I think you mean Bishop Williamson. Yes. I tend to agree with just about everything Father Jenkins says, but you're right about the Sedevacantists. Like, I don't disagree with a lot of what Father Jenkins says. It's just it's difficult with that. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. S.K. Williams, go for it.
Joe Paul says Hoffman is not a seed. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if he is or not. I talked to him about like 3-4 years ago. He's an interesting guy. I've read his books. Hoffman is interesting. He's definitely a Benevacantist at a minimum.
Right, and I understand the attraction to that position. That's why you won't hear me ripping on that position. It's just that's not something I want to either promote or like talk about much because I'm not an expert enough. But I'm never going to like sit and rip on people for it. I'm just going to suggest you exercise caution. Because my personal rule in life is that we live under the diabolic disorientation, as Sister Lucia said. So, which is why I say if you want to know what the church teaches, just look to anything the church taught 100 years ago. Or actually, probably 1950 because of the formal declaration of, I believe it was the Immaculate Conception or the Annunciation. I did a video on it and I can't even remember. I'm tired. Williamson is the first bishop you ever talk about we'll say the truth about 9/11 as some people see it, Christopher Marlowe. I have to be careful on YouTube. Father Williamson's charism is like Lefebvre. Love it. Let's see. S.K. Willis. S.K. Willis, a lot of your messages are getting flagged, just as an FYI. Liberals advocate sex without responsibility and violence to get your own way. And water is wet. Michael of Angels says Alex Jones has a guy on who says the Masons and Jesuits who infiltrated the Vatican are being infiltrated themselves, and there's a lot of infighting. Well, I mean, the Jesuits are probably the first to be taken over, so I mean, that's just objectively true. Pipe organ, thank you for the super chat. It is appreciated. Stala says, I want to like Larry too. He has strange things going on. What do you mean by strange things? Like, Joseph Moore says he wears a veil too because it's so embarrassing. Yeah. Have you all checked out Foundation? Hey, have we checked out Foundation?
That's the one I sent you.
What?
That's the one I sent you. Remember? I sent you that video set. You and I.
The Foundation's Restored thing. Yeah,
I bought it, but I haven't been able to watch it yet.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it anything either. When I'm not doing this and when I'm not working my side job, I'm trying to get my dissertation revised. Like, I had a chapter that I thought I had finished in my first draft that I went to revise, opened it up, it saw it was only like 80% done, and was like, great. So I had to go finish that. The infiltration is what I'm talking about, not the original Mason takeover that Marshall and others touch on. Let's see. Anna Colleen Wheaton says, being Orthodox does sound good, except you would be outside the church. Yeah, the situation with the Orthodox is always so weird. Like, people think I'm really hostile to the Eastern Orthodox. I'm only hostile to people who try to lead people out of the church and who, like, get really, like, I don't know, in your face about it. Like, one of the coolest women I've ever met in my life was my wife's roommate in college, who was an Ethiopian Greek Orthodox girl. And her fasting put all of us to shame. And she was very quiet and very sensible young woman. I don't know what happened to her. She's in med school, I think, but
yeah, I'm still very good friends with a lot of Orthodox folks. I mean, it's politics. Orthodox is a politics thing. It just boils down to some things not being accepted at certain councils, and it's beyond our control. Would I be an Orthodox? Probably not. Born in the Catholic tradition, I'm probably going to stay there forever.
Right. So SK Willis asks, why is this thing getting flagged? I don't know. Joseph Moore retracted his message. Total War Legendary got one flagged. Condolences for the loss of your country to the, then he uses probably the word that got flagged there, so I'll be careful. So if you haven't noticed, I think a lot of what people talk about with suppression is that YouTube wants everybody to be super polite and super happy. So that's the thing, and that's why I think my channel got suppressed. Bruce Wayne, Ethiopian, Greek, Coptic. I think she was Greek Orthodox.
There's a great video documentary on YouTube about Mount Athos, which is the Greek Orthodox monastery up on the top of Mount Athos. Pretty good. I suggest people watch it.
So SK Will says the Orthodox have valid sacraments and orders and doctrine. They do, although the doctrine thing you start to get a little dicey on with some of the things. They are more impaired than outside the church. This is not an endorsement. The situation with them is just complicated. It's schism. They are schismatics, unlike the SSPX. I get really tired of that, on people saying that. You should watch Akita and the Fatima Secret on YouTube. It's a video that was approved by Agnes Sasagawa, and it talks about the second part of the third secret. I'd love more information on that, because I did express publicly some skepticism about it, simply because of all the fake news going on out there. But I did also said, objectively, the message itself is true. What are my views on the SSPX stance of recognize and resist, if I may ask? Depends what you mean by recognize and resist. Like, it's hard, right? Like, let me put it to you this way. Whenever I take the how trad are you online quizzes, I come off as but I always come up as being much more extreme than I ever let anybody ever know, because I'm probably wrong. So, about just how bad the situation is. So, this is why I never tell you what mass to go to, what everything else is. But, like I said, the diocesan priest around the corner from me is one of the best priests I've ever met, and he's a young guy, and he had to practice. It's a Novus Ordo parish, and he moved the tabernacle back to the center behind the altar. That may not sound like a big deal to some of you guys, but that parish has the Susan problem, and I think he had to fight for that.
The truth will live. Anthony, if he thought the SSPX were schismatic, I would not be on right now with him. So the answer to that is no.
Right, yeah. So, now that having been said, the nearest traditional Latin Mass to me is an SSPX chapel. I drive twice that distance to go to one of the more famous fraternity parishes in the country. Why? Partially because when my wife and I lived in Tulsa, we started going to the Latin Mass, and we found ourselves at that parish pretty quickly, and we got connected to the community, and they've been wonderful people to us. But also because, well, I don't think they're in schism. It is sort of a political statement, when you start going there, when you start going to the SSPX. I'm not sure if I'm ready to make that statement yet. That having been said, if the fraternity starts doing goofy, modernist stuff, then yeah, okay. At that point.
The fraternity in America does do, in the States, does do modernist stuff. Like their ordinations are guys up. What a lot of people don't understand is the difference with society. Society is not, they are called canonically incorrect. What that means is that they don't go to the local bishop for approval to open up a church. They do it on their own. They go and open up their own churches, stuff like that. So that makes them canonically incorrect. Whereas the fraternity still consider themselves under the guise of the local bishop of the area.
And the individual priests still answer to their home diocese bishops too. So, for instance, a fraternity priest that I'm familiar with is going to be out of town soon because he has to go travel home to talk to his bishop, which is on the other side of the country. So it's weird. I don't understand how it all works. But to give you an idea, the fraternity were promised the same deal that Lefebvre turned down, and they still don't have the bishop that they were promised from Rome 30 years later.
Yeah.
So,
and
Joseph Moore says, Jacinto Marto's birthday today. She warned us of the sins of the flesh that Our Lady Fatima told her most people go to hell for. All saints pray for us. Right. Guys, Lent is a wonderful time to mortify the flesh. If you love my We Were Warned videos and you think something's coming and you're going to, confession for sins of the flesh, which is not just, impurity, but other things, got to work on that. Right? You should be working on that anyway, but you never know if you're going to have an aneurysm, an hour from now. So.
Hey, just to some people ask. So the difference is the SSPX is the SSPX and the FSSP are they're not the same as a Jesuit. Okay, just we want to make this very different. They're not like Jesuits. They're not like Dominicans. They are a fraternity. They're not an order in the traditional sense. They're very different in that connotation. So just to make that distinction for
right.
People, they're not the same. You can't put down, it's you don't say Father, Joseph Smith, SSPX. It's not like that. It's whereas it would be Father Joe Smith, SJ. That's an official designation by the church.
So Thomas Keller says more Malachi Martin. I would happily do more Malachi Martin. I bought a book on that Father Gruner wrote, that Malachi Martin wrote the intro for. I don't know if I can record that though. That's the problem, because anything you see me recording, I have a big Chesterton thing this weekend, and Chesterton writings are the same book and the same essays by him are being published by 5 different publishers because it's all available for free to people. You just can't, read that edition's version of it, the introduction or whatever, because that's the copyrighted material. But Malachi Martin was writing less than 75 years ago. There's the problem. So, if you've got something you want me to talk about with Malachi Martin, send me an email and maybe some sources or whatever. There's a lot out there on him. I used to have his interviews up with Bernard Jansen, but I got asked to take those down. So, but you can find those online. How do we mortify? Well, before I got a cold recently, I was intermittent fasting. Trust me, those last 2 to 3 hours before you can have your food in that 4 or 6 hour window, depending on what you're doing, you start to notice it. You're doing way harder than I am, but my health issues this last year have kept me from going the full black fast that you and some of our colleagues are doing.
I literally wake up in the morning and I'm shaking, all this and that. It's so basically so you'll hear it from a lot of different people, a lot of different names, but what we and some other people that Anthony and I know are doing is what's called a medieval fast. And basically what that means is there's no meat, there's no dairy, there's no animal product at all. We eat basically a lunch every day, and that's it.
You're
after
eating
3 o'clock.
You're eating vegan too. Like, to give you an idea,
it was basically
and it's
vegan,
soy-free vegan because you guys aren't morons about it. You know, no Impossible Burgers, even though I keep trying to get you guys to do an Impossible Burger for mortification reasons.
No, I just won't do it. It was bad enough that I had to walk into this major city, into a vegan restaurant last night to get dinner, and just the stink of patchouli was dropping me to my knees.
SK Willis, I am aware of the truth about the Statue of Liberty. There are people who hope that one day this country will have a radical conversion of the faith, and the Statue of Liberty will be modified to be a statue of Our Lady, which I think would be epic. But that would only ever happen. Only after a radical conversion. Captain T, I'll say, says, I have a big Chesterton thing. Let's see. Looking at I love my FSSP community. I love my, our my priests are good. Like, they're pretty hardcore guys to go to confession with sometimes. So, do your penance on your knees on the marble floor of the parish. I mean, that can suck, especially when you're carrying a bunch of extra weight like I am.
Marnie Doyle said it used to be called the Black Fast. No, Black Fast is different. Black Fast is no eating at all, no water, no food. Traditionally, with the medieval fast, and we did it this year. Ash Wednesday is a day fast. There's no food, no water. Holy Thursday and Good Friday as well. So that's Black Fast. Black Fast means absolute food, water. You don't eat at all. You heard
the Sacred Heart says, I heard the Antichrist is coming from a certain kind of nun from the tribe of Dan, from Our Lady of La Salette. Yeah, the lady, the interesting thing about the Our Lady of La Salette is, if you want to learn about the harder core version that's out there of that prophecy, that's Father Hess. Go watch that. He will not hold back, by the way. He was quite the character. You guys are hardcore fasters. I was sick recently, so I'm not doing the intermittent fast right now. In the next few days, I'm going to go back to it. I got a weird cold, and I wanted to kill it quickly because I don't want my immune system compromised right now. I'm not paranoid about things right now, but I don't want to take my chances. Your husband is finding it difficult being a power lifter. Yeah, well, I'm a weightlifter, so I understand.
Yeah, I believe me. I'm weaker than I was. I do have to drop off. I got to go and do some wage cucker.
All right, man. It was good to have you on. I'll answer some questions. It was good to talk to you. We'll talk again.
Sounds good. Thank you, brother.
See ya. But I'll hang out a little longer for people if they want to have ask some questions or whatnot. I do want to announce that if you're one of the patrons or members of the channel, there's gonna be a patron-only live stream that I'll probably clip part of with the supporters' permission and put up as a bonus video either this weekend or next. So watch for that. I'll do a formal announcement when I put up the early access videos this weekend. You wonder if the beer bug is excuse for martial law. Maybe over in Europe, I don't know. You'd have the hard time with that in the United States, though. I'm a big whiskey drinker. It prevents sickness. Yes, I wish I could be, but I don't keep alcohol in the house right now because of just having a young kid here, or I have a little boy and my wife, and my wife doesn't drive, so it makes it difficult. Let's see. What did I convert from? High functioning agnosticism, and I dived in with both feet. Let my studies slide. Reading church fathers and things when I was, doing things. Spent most of my time studying the faith instead of what I should have been studying. Well, what my university would have thought I should have been studying. We'll put it that way. Beer apparently allowed. EO makes more sense all the time. No, it doesn't. Schism never makes sense. Video on the beer fast? I don't know much about the beer fast. According to the mystics, France will reconvert. Well, it's according to the prophecies that when the war that's part of the chastisement comes, France is going to be the ones who basically save the West, which is astonishing to think about watching what's going on there now. Clayton Lee, sorry I came in late. Don't know who your guest was. That was Trad Patrick of Tradcast Show TCS. He runs a slightly edgier show. He doesn't do crisis news or daily events like I do. He does more long form content on his channel. He talks a lot about Catholic social teaching and such. So is my opinion on bashing secular media and calling it evil. Should more people do that? That's one of the reasons I think my channel got throttled, was because I wasn't being nice to the secular media. I think the journalists in this country need to have issues. John Kakarab says, could I do more on Marie Julie Jehani? I'm planning a We Were Warned video on Marie Julie Jehani, so. When is the second Alois Erlmeyer video coming out? I'm hoping maybe next month. I'm trying to break through this this weird throttling I'm going through, and We Were Warned videos are an easy way to do it because I get more views than anything else. Was I baptized Protestant? No, my grandmother insisted I was be baptized Catholic when I was a kid. If only half a donut during Lent, is it considered a partial indulgence? Let's see. Russia is more Christian than the West. There's also Catholic prophecy about that too, and that's really disturbing stuff. Called Trad Talk, Mrs. Maiden Name. His show is called Tradcath Show TCS, if that's what you're looking for. What devotion is effective for bringing about the 11th hour conversion? I would probably, if I had to guess, it would be personal mortifications and the 5 First Saturdays, because the 5 First Saturdays are part of the request of Our Lady of Fatima, and a lot of people aren't keeping it. Total War Legendary says, I'm looking forward to the Alois Erlmeyer video. I will watch out for it. Yep. What I need to do is find more sources, because I want to go over that again. A lot of people had a problem with him being, a dowser, but he always said he didn't pick that talent up, if you want to call it that, until he had his vision of Our Lady. And the church always said dousing was, as long as you're, it depends is it okay? Well, it depends on where you're crediting it coming from. And he said it came from, God, basically. So whatever, Tell the truth, you're done for. Is blacklisted on Twitter for being pro. Yeah. How about Our Lady of America? I've done one on Our Lady of America. I focused on the purity message because it was 1958 or 1960 when that apparition happened. You go find the video. I have the wrong picture up on it, because when I was looking for a picture of the nun associated with the apparition, all I kept finding was this picture of of an elderly nun, and it's not the right picture. So just know that much. But I had no way of telling, because it was a lot of times it's hard to find a good image. Shroud of Turin video. Is there a book or collective work on all these prophecies? There is one called, and it's on my shelf right now, and I am actually going to use it for another We Were Warned video about what the church says has to come before the Antichrist arrives and the end times arrive. And the book is called Trial, Tribulation, and Triumph. It was published like 25 years ago, and it's never been reprinted, but I have a copy of it. And it doesn't have all of the prophecies in it, because you would have to do a multi-volume set. And I think the author has moved on to write other things, or has moved on from this immortal coil. Any thoughts on Our Lady of Knock? I've done a video on Our Lady of Knock. What do I think about the 15 prayers of St. Bridget? Send me an email. My email is listed in the description of my videos. It's on one of the top links. Your ancestors ran the Church of England. SK Will says you're descended from the Stuarts. According to my mother, we're descended from the Stuarts too. So, hello, distant cousins, 75 times removed. How did Dante get away with portraying a sitting pope the way he did in the Inferno? There's a funny story with that. There was a bishop. I don't know if it was the sitting pope, but there was a sitting bishop that he put in that he depicted in hell, and I think it was Dante, or maybe it was Michelangelo. I don't know how he got away with that, actually. So because I'm confusing now if it was Michelangelo or Dante, I won't go on until I know for sure. But what do I think of a pastor who says there's no one talks about hell in my church? Says Willie Hoops. That's a problem. There should be, priests should at least once in a while talk about the 4 last things. Toompi Floyd and the promises attached to it. If you're talking about the 5 First Saturdays, I think it was Dante, or maybe it was Michael. There should be sound. Someone says there was no sound, but are the messages attached? Yeah, they should be. SK Willis, I do not know how to do the 5 First Saturdays. Or it's 5 First Saturdays, not Sundays. Do a search on my channel. I've done multiple videos on it. John Kekarab, I am Byzantine Lutheran, raised in the Latin Church because there was no Eastern Church. I urge you to do more on the Eastern Church. I would love to find a Catholic YouTuber to have a chat like this with about the Eastern rites. Have I heard of the Evangelical Triangle? Nope. It's that the Antichrist will be born in Chorazin, be brought up Bethsaida, and reign in Capernaum. Could very well be. What about St. Francis of Assisi prophecies? One of my early We Were Warned videos was about St. Francis of Assisi. I may delete that video and redo it because that's such awful audio problems. You wonder if the beer bug will stop what's going on in Medjugorje? Could very well be. Dante was protected, says Thomas Keller. What do I think of the seminary that lets you pay $1,800 and write a thesis, that get a degree and get holy orders? That sounds like simony to me. All right, so let's see. But for those of you who are not aware, so I'm going to do this update I did at the beginning again. So I did a Warren video yesterday, and there was also... And when I produced that video, it was true that they were still permitting people to go to restaurants and other silly things. But that has changed. They have actually shut those down in Italy. So that's your update for that. So for those who didn't hear it, I want to make sure people, don't get the wrong idea. And apparently Pope Francis has also told priests to go and give the sacraments out to the sick and things. And, priests should be doing that. So that's good news as well. And the polls, there's a headline I'm not going to do a video on this probably, but a Polish bishop calls for more masses in response to the beer bug, and he calls it unimaginable to close churches. And he points out that during the worst times of similar problems in European history, the churches stayed open. So that's good. Can I make a video on the Masons infiltrating the Jesuits? Well, I would need sources of information for that. Eric Ibarra might be a good guest with respect to discussion on the Eastern churches. Could be. Should you start a Newman Club at your super leftist alma mater, Vassar? Well, my university is probably one of the most famous leftists in the country, and there's a Newman Center there, and it was definitely a godsend, even if the religious order who runs it is kind of weird. They just shut down CU Boulder. Catholic University Boulder? That's just great. Can they still have the Coco Palmero parties at the Vatican, Christopher Marlowe? The reason that a lot of comments are getting flagged is because people aren't using discretion on how they say things. That's why this is happening. But can they still have the Coco Palmero parties? I haven't heard of anything about anything like that. You can connect me to some good people in the Eastern Church. Well, if you want to send me an email, I'd love to get that started. But, YouTubers like me get a bad rap, though, also. That's the problem. We do, when we start talking about bishops and things, a lot of people want to keep a distance. So remember, some people might watch some of my videos and be like, why do I attend a leftist university? Because that was all I had access to. The 40 hours should be in every parish throughout the world right now. I agree. Harvey Weinstein getting what he deserves. Saying a university is leftist is a bit of a redundancy. Most of them actually are by default. If you want to find a decent Catholic university, you're going to have to look at the Newman list, because that's about going to be your only option. Beer bug seems to be overblown by the media. You would be correct. The preparing I've done for it is not because of that. It's because of the panic. I'm more worried about people being dumb than I am about the thing. Now, if you're in the age group that's more affected by it, please take it seriously. But other than that, yeah. Have a votive mass for in times of pestilence. It is the traditional Latin mass, but not in the Novus Ordo mass. Have a vote. Yeah. You'd have to go and talk to your priests about that. What do I make of the state of the Knights of Columbus these days? Well, the changes they announced kept me from ever wanting to join. To give you an idea. California Coast University. Is it accredited? And the reason I ask is because a lot of employers will look at non-accredited universities and not give you the time of day for a job. That's why I used to work in, financial aid at a university, so I got to know about accreditation, and I'm glad I left that place before their accreditation investigation happened, because that would have been a nightmare to be in. How do we deal with the issue in the Western Church of treating the exceptions as the rule? It's sort of like, people will say that the luminous mysteries are an official part of the rosary, and they're an optional part of the rosary. Everything that is optional and everything that's an exception has become the rule. This is why I tell people, just find out what the church said, pre-1950, 1950 or earlier, and that's what you'll find. Bruce Wayne says everyone should take at least some precautions. Any permanent detriment should be avoided. Yeah, that's one of the things is that there can be permanent problems. Not everyone has them, but some people should. Take care, Noida. KFC, are they tied to the lodge? Not that I know of, but these days, who knows? Cal Coast is accredited. That's good. If you're going to go to a university, make sure it's accredited. Tennessee government also allows basic licensure from it. Okay. Well, I've got some yard work to do, so I also have to start do my work on my dissertation. So I'm going to have to end the stream here shortly. Anybody has any other questions or anything, please go ahead and ask them now, because I will have to duck out shortly. You found out this is Saint Corona? Really? Send me an email if I want to do one of those saints videos and have it instantly demonetized. I'll do that one. There are only 15 mysteries of the Rosary. Yeah, I have a 15-decade Rosary. Haven't used it yet because it's hard. Clayton Lee, one of the members, says, my daughter goes to Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College in Barry's Bay, Ontario, which is an excellent Catholic college. Highly recommended. Good to know that there are still some good ones out there. I don't know if they're on if the Newman list is just an American thing or not. Most people probably get infected with the thing. Yeah, probably most people will. And most people won't even know about it. Total War Legendary likes the live streams. I appreciate you tuning in for them. Yeah, well, so thanks for tuning in. Oh, did I get my email about the Forgotten Saints series in regards to Rose? I did. I've got a whole bunch of emails about those. That's why I haven't responded, because I've got like 80 emails in my inbox right now. So, expect 80%. Yeah, probably. How do we deal with spiritually abusive spiritual fathers? Up your spiritual readings, up your prayer life. That's how you deal with it, and just carry the cross. Wish me well in my dissertation. Thank you. Eucharistic miracle in Buenos Aires. I find it interesting that the Novus Ordo has so many Eucharistic miracles. And the reason I say that is if you understand what the purpose of a Eucharistic miracle is according to the Church, then I find it interesting. All right, no problems with the Legion of Mary. Legion of Mary. I'm trying to remember who they are. Send me an email if you want. And Cleanly says they're on the Newman list. That would be good. They just shut down NRG Stadium in Houston over this thing. Oh. Yeah, what's going to be interesting is a lot of these sports teams, how they handle this stuff. The little horn will be a Mason. What do you mean by the little horn? Send me an email about the little horn. This is all stuff that I can learn a lot from my own audience. But yeah, I got to end this now. So thanks for tuning in. And if you're a patron, a subscriber, or a member of the channel, or someone who's supported through the mail, just be watching for a member only stream that I may clip part of for a weekend video, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why when I do that stream. It'll probably be Saturday morning at some point. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for checking in. I appreciate it. Have a good one.